Ladies and gentlemen, this is Simerjeet Singh back with the Beginner's Mind series, and our special guest today was given the title of India's Wonder Girl at the tender age of 11. When she was just 1 year old, she picked up a vocabulary of more than 500 words at just the age of 1. This child prodigy would listen to videos in foreign languages and immediately pick up the accents. At the age of 10, she learned 10 different accents, including British, American, Scottish, etc. And she's currently learning French, Japanese, and Spanish, all with the help of the internet. Our guest today is the recipient of numerous awards and standing ovations at functions and ceremonies across the world, and she is none other than Ms. Janhavi Panwar. Let's welcome with a huge round of virtual applause.
Thank you so much.
Janhavi, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And that virtual applause was really cool, you know?
Well, we live in the virtual world, and we need to acknowledge and appreciate, the efforts that other people are putting in, that we are putting in to, to adapt to this changing world. How have you been during this very tough period of the last year and a half?
Apparently not too bad. I think this was the kind of period that I needed in my life, kind of like a me alone time, and something that can help me do some more creative and more artistic things, I believe. So this was one of the best times of my lives, even though it's kind of ironical with everything that that has been happening around the world, but still, it has been great. I just loved it. And now I actually like the social life too, again.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of human nature, right? To make the best, and that's what we teach as speakers, as influencers, to make the best of whatever is around you. And I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
You made the best of this time, this as a me time, as a time for exploration, time to boost your creativity. So without much further ado, we have a list of some of the questions. But I'm going to begin with what Google auto-suggest. When we type in your name in Google auto-suggest, we get this. Why is Janhavi Panwar famous? Why is Janhavi Panwar famous? Let's begin with that. Tell us about your journey, and of course, about where you are today and how did you get here, what your superpowers are, and what young people who are tuning into this conversation can learn from you.
Wow. Okay. So apparently this question hasn't changed since like 2 years now, I believe. And I think, I'm famous because I'm titled as the Wonder Girl of India. So I believe I speak in different accents: British, American, RP, Posh, Australian, Scottish, Canadian, Norfolk, Cockney. And then I'm also learning French and Japanese, which I'm kind of done with, and now learning Spanish. And I am also a motivational speaker because, motivational speaker was kind of like not my main goal, but it somehow came up because, I've been going to programs to just address people. So at one point I thought like just speaking in different accents with all of the people, it doesn't really fit well, it doesn't really fit really well. So I thought maybe I can have something that can inspire people how to be their best versions. Then I started reading motivational books and everything, started watching videos, and came up with my own experiences and different examples. So that came along. Then now I'm 17 right now, and I'm doing my master's in English literature, and this is my second year.
Wow, so, 17 and already doing your master's. That deserves another round of applause.
Thank you.
Wow. Pretty good. Okay, master's in English literature.
Yes.
At 17. Tell me, how did teachers at your school react with your amazing linguistic abilities, your ability to watch a video and immediately grasp the accent, and your ability to learn foreign languages very quickly, all through the help of the internet? What was the reaction? So two reactions I'm interested in. One is your fellow students, your peers, and also the teachers in your school in Samalkha, I believe, in district Panipat in Haryana. That's where you're based. Tell us about how did these folks react?
Well, this was kind of hard when I was younger. So I've been studying in a school. It's a normal town school, so I've been there. People over there, people in my school, even the teachers, they barely used to talk in Hindi. We all talked in Haryanvi, so less than all English. English was like a big deal. So even though our English teacher used to talk in English, but he had that Haryanvi accent like really up
Hmm.
to the par. So when
Yeah.
I started talking in English at
It happens
first,
with the best
uh,
of us. When I started speaking, delivering my speeches in Hindi, I had a very strong Punjabi accent that would come through. So I can relate with that. Yes, please go on.
yeah, now
Uh,
you have a great accent. I really, really like your accent.
Thank you.
So
It's in sort of a neutral international accent that sort of rubbed off on me, having spent time in different parts of the world. So I lived 4.5 years in the UK, a year and a
yes,
half
that's
in the
why you have got
US.
that touch of British
Right,
accent.
and Australia, and so it's a cocktail now. You'll see different bits emerging here and there, but that's what
Yeah.
it is. Right, carry on, please.
So the students, first of all, they started mimicking me for some time, and after
Hmm.
mimicking me, they used to make fun of me. They used to call me Angrej all of the time,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
"Oh, she's an Angrej,"
ये
and no one
अंग्रेज
really
चले गए
used to
आपको
sit
यहाँ
with
छोड़
me.
गए है ना? Yeah.
hmm No one
Mm.
really used to sit with me. They all were like, "She's way too younger. She's gonna talk with us. She can't be friends with us. She's too
Uh-huh.
young. Then she speaks in English." Basically, I was a different kind of human being, a different breed. And then
Yeah.
teachers, at first, teachers were kind of surprised, and I probably shouldn't say this, but teachers who were not teaching me, they kind of had this thing against me. They were always like, "Yeah, you speak in English. That's not a big deal," and everything.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
think after a moment, when I had my achievements and everything, and when I started going to places, then somehow all of those people started appreciating me. So at first they were kind of surprised, and people had this thing against me at first, but then everything just changed. It took a backflip.
Do you know, I read this, I don't know who said this, but I read this the other day and it was very powerful. First, they will laugh at you, and then they'll be curious about you, and then they would want
Yeah.
to be you, and then they would appreciate you. But first stage
Yes.
is always, especially if you have a gift like yours, Janvi, and I'm sure we all have our gifts. I refer to the multiple intelligence theory here by Dr. Howard Gardner, who said intelligence is, just scoring high on your exams is not just intelligence, right? Or just doing well in physics, chemistry, or math is not just
hmm
intelligence. Intelligence is, he divides it into 9 different categories, and linguistic ability, the ability to pick up different languages, and what you're displaying here is one of those categories. So I think 2 very prominent things emerge here, which is this: if you are displaying something extraordinary, if you have a talent, be prepared for other people to, look at you with not just curiosity, but perhaps with hatred and anger also, because they fail to
Yeah.
understand your gifts. And the second thing that emerges is for teachers to understand that every child comes with a different set of gifts and talents, and to nourish them and not to try to pigeonhole them by the same yardstick, right? Not to try to measure every child by the same measurement system that we use for everybody else. Those are 2 very important things that have come up. So I want to take a deeper dive into your attraction towards learning languages. How did you realize you had this gift? Was it your parents, or did you, as a little, because you probably might be too young to understand how it was happening, right? If you were watching a video, you had the ability to comprehend it and to, sort of pick up that accent really quickly. Tell me, how did you become aware that you had a certain gift as far as languages were concerned?
Uh, to be honest, I never became aware of this thing. It was kind of like going, and it's still going. There's this track of life, and you just keep moving on that track. This is something that's been happening, and that is still happening with me. So I think there is not something like, I somehow realized is that I have this gift, or like I should probably learn languages and everything. But to
Uh-huh.
be honest, it was my parents, my dad, to be specific. My dad went on to these numerous jobs, and he was always denied because he did not really have that fluent and that good grip on English. So
Mm-hmm.
my dad was always like, my kid, she's gonna learn English for sure. Then after learning
Mm-hmm.
English, it kind of became a big deal. Like, everyone speaks English, it's not a big deal. So, well, it did not become a big deal then. So it's not a big deal, John V, and speaking in English, what do you think you're gonna do with this? Then the thing was, I could have stopped there, but it basically was not the criticism that kept me moving. It was
Mm-hmm.
me, because I always had this interest, and I think interest in any field, in any track, it's being created. And if we people think at the age of 18 somehow any interest is going to knock in your door, then it's not really going to happen.
True.
So my
True.
interest was created by my father, by my mother.
Uh-huh.
And after that, then I started researching about this thing by myself, and somehow it became mine. So
Right.
after researching all of these things, I was like, I used to watch BBC News to just improve my English, to be fluent. And then I used to mimic the BBC News, and I used to read news. And I used to read news in like BBC style. And after that, people were like, okay, so now you're mimicking accents, and that's like even worse. So
Right.
yeah, I was mimicking accents. So for that,
Right.
I asked my father, is that why do these people talk so differently? And why do these people, they don't use their T's, they use their R's with really strange voices? What is happening there?
Right.
So my dad was like, these are different accents. I was like, I'm gonna learn it. And then when we finally thought I want to learn it, we started going on to these different institutes all over India, and we found no one. We literally found no one who can teach us accents. Me and my dad, on every Sunday, we used to go to British Council,
Wow.
and we just used to annoy people a lot, and we annoyed them so much. Is that, do you have a class for British or American accent? They're like, no. How many times do we have to tell you? Me and my dad,
But you
we
didn't give
always
up,
had
and your
this
dad
idea.
didn't give up, and that's very important to highlight here.
Yeah.
You did not give up,
Then
right?
then somehow internet came along, and after internet I started watching tutorials on YouTube, and then I got a hold on like on all of these online classes. I learned phonetics. I did a whole lot of research on phonetic sound, on every accent's phonetic sound. Then I started practicing them the whole day, and now I can't do an Indian accent. So I did an Indian accent until I was like 6 or 7, because after that I just started mimicking. So it's just not on my tongue anymore.
Well, you probably do one when you try to make fun of it, right? You might be able to do it then, right? I think two very important things that emerges. One is the power of the internet. One is the power of the digital world here. And I think every young person who's watching, please make full use of the resources that you have at your disposal. We now have access to free online courses in major universities across the world, videos from YouTubers such as Janhavi herself. I believe you're a very active YouTuber now. And guys, we will leave the link for her channel in the description below. Go check it out. Subscribe to her channel. Watch her videos and her courses. She's putting in a great amount of effort into that. But I think one thing becomes very clear is that for everybody who's tuning in into this conversation right now, you have this access to the same resources that Simerjeet Singh has. You have access to the same, pretty much the same resources that Janhavi Panwar has. And therefore, there are no limitations as far as resources are concerned. You know, we live in a borderless world, a world without walls. You can reach out to the best of information. It all depends upon you. And I think it's very important, the role of your father here in the entire process, you know, to be your mentor, to be your guide, to be your friend, to sort of discover that talent within you and to nudge you forward and to take you into that environment. Environments have a huge role to play, I personally believe. I grew up in a house where we had books around, you know, so not that somebody would actively ask me to go and pick up a book and read, and not that there would be a separate reading time, but just having books around in the house was enough for me to develop an interest in literature and reading fiction and non-fiction and all sort of things. So wonderful insights there, Janhavi. Thank you so much for sharing this. So talk to us more about your journey looking for institutes where you could learn these languages and these accents, and you didn't find it there. And as you said, that the internet happened. So how was that a turning point? What role did it play? And what role do you feel it can play for everybody who's listening to this conversation right now?
Of course. People always have this excuse, is that we don't have enough money, or we don't have a really, really good environment for anything. Well, I think, and I probably shouldn't say this because some people might find it offensive, but I think this is one of the lamest excuses I've ever heard. So I think, internet, it definitely plays a big role. For me, it definitely was a turning point. At that time, we did not even have like a screen touch phone. We just only had one phone. My father bought it recently when I was 5. And so after that phone came along, it helped me so much. It particularly depends on the person, is that in what ways the person is using that phone. So some people use it for social media, and then some people use it for, if someone is like me, then some people use it for languages or accents and everything. So
Hmm.
I think it basically depends on the person, so in what kind of ways you're using. And for me, I just used to watch videos all of the time on YouTube, and all of the time I just used to go and check out these online classes and phonetic. I
Uh-huh.
used to be on Google reading people opinions, reading people's, opinions on everything, on phonetics and everything. So
Hmm.
I think that really, really helped me a lot. And still up to this date, till this date, I'm learning different languages, and it's still helping me a lot. And I'm so, so, so grateful for it. So I think people just need to come up with a specific goal or a specific plan, and
Absolutely.
anything they're ever going to need. And if they really have that fire within themselves,
Hmm.
so they
Hmm.
can find everything on YouTube and everything on internet and wherever they want to,
In bits
without
and
any money,
pieces,
to be
right?
honest.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They might not find it all in one place, but they'll definitely find it in bits and pieces all over. And I think, yeah. Sorry, were you saying something? Did I lost your audio there for a second?
No, no, I wasn't saying
Okay.
anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. No, so as I said, if they're unable to find it all of the information in one place, they'll definitely find it in bits and pieces. And as you rightly said, it's a fire in the belly that counts. I'm reminded of a little example, this little prop that I use to demonstrate this point. That is focus. A magnifying glass. Probably folks who are
Okay.
watching this right now might have played it when you were played with it when you were a little kid. And all you're doing when you're out in the sun, you could burn paper, you could burn grass, you could do so much, just because you're concentrating the energy of the rays which were scattered earlier, and that's
I did
the
that in
important.
class 10.
There you go, right? But you've been
Yeah.
doing it way before, because you had a goal that you wanted to focus on, which was learn these languages, and you had this environment around you. You had a clear, specific goal of why you wanted to learn this, due to your dad's experiences, as you mentioned. So I think it's very important that I share a story here with the audience. It goes. I'm not sure if it was Socrates or Aristotle, but one of the old Greek philosophers. Here's how the story goes. His fame had spread far and wide, Janhavi, and young people would come to him, especially to ask, how can I be successful in life? And one such young man had traveled over a great distance to come and see Socrates. And so it was early in the morning. Socrates was taking a bath in the middle of the river. He was standing in the middle of the river. So this guy, when he couldn't contain himself, he couldn't hold it back when he saw Socrates. He said, "Wow, I've been looking for you, master. I've traveled so many days just to see you, to ask you, what is the secret of success? How can I be successful?" To which he says, "Son, sure, since you've traveled such a long distance, I will tell you my secret to success, but you'll have to come inside the river, come in the river to the point where I am, and I'll tell you the secret right here." So he's sort of inviting him inside the river to the point. So Socrates is right in the middle where the river is at the deepest. And so the water is like right up here to his neck. And so this disciple comes in. So he puts his arm around his neck and plunges his head inside water, right? So for the next couple of seconds, he's fighting for dear life. He's trying to break hold from his strangle, and he obviously was a stronger guy, but he's holding him down, he's pinning him down, and finally he manages to break free from his hold. He's gasping for air. And he goes, "What sort of a rude answer was that? What are you trying to say to me? I could have died down there." And he said, "Son, when you want to be successful as badly as you wanted to breathe while you were inside the water, as badly as you wanted oxygen when you were about to drown, when you want to succeed in anything as badly as you were in that situation, you will get it." And I think your story demonstrates the point that if you work for something, all the resources show up, all the teachers show up, everything shows
Yes.
up. And that's your journey's been very, very interesting. So I'm sure you must have decoded or created or thought about your process. Do you have a process which other people can follow, Janhavi, in order to learn either a foreign language better, or get better at the ones that they know at the moment? I know you've talked about videos. I know you've talked about immersion learning, which is listening to those things and trying to copy it and to be in that moment, right? And to absorb that influence. But do you have a process that you would recommend that people should follow?
Sure, I do have a process. Okay, so the first of all, people always choose this wrong approach while they start learning a language. People always start with learning grammar and focusing on grammar all of the time. Whereas I
Hmm.
think this is the approach which people should not really go for, because
Okay.
grammar is only going to get your head messed up and you're going to be bewildered at every point.
Too
So,
many
because
rules.
the
I agree.
moment you
Too many
start
rules.
speaking, it's important is that is you have to be fluent, and for
Hmm.
fluency you need to have a good grammar. So people think in order to be fluent, you need a good grammar, and for that, they keep cramming all of the rules of grammar. So when it's finally the moment to start speaking, so what people tend to do is that they wait. They wait for a pretty long time because they're thinking in the back of their mind what kind of rule they have to use right now. So
Right.
it's important is that instead of focusing on grammar, you start
Hmm.
listening anything, any interview, any movie, or something like basic dialogues of that language.
Hmm.
That's going to give you a good grip over different phrases and different idioms that those people use. Because believe me, if you're going to watch it with subtitles, after watching the same thing for 2 or 3 times, you're going to get a hold of some words and some phrases,
Of course.
and the grammar is hidden there, hidden in those phrases and hidden in those idioms. So after that, after focusing on these points, now people think if they're going to practice for like 15 to 20 minutes a day, then their language is going to be great. No, the reason you're speaking your mother tongue so fluently and so properly is because you have been speaking it for your whole life, and this is
Great.
what you got to do for the language you're learning. People
Uh-huh.
think if they're going to speak the language for like 30 minutes a day, then they have practiced enough and they're going to be fluent, whereas that's not the
Hmm.
case. The
Hmm.
case is that whenever you get time, even you can do a monologue. People think it's important to have a dialogue. I say no. There's nothing better than having a monologue with yourself. So whenever you're traveling, or like if you're traveling on the road, pick up spontaneous things. If you're traveling on the road, pick up a tree and start talking on that tree. If you're
Mm.
sitting in a room, start speaking some different sentences in that on that room. And that's how you build up your confidence and your fluency instead of focusing on grammar. And another thing that people need is a good vocabulary, definitely. But
Hmm.
the thing is that people also focus on the wrong vocabulary. Now, again, people tend to think if they have great big words and if they learn a great vocabulary and those big words which you use in writing, then they can speak much better. Whereas at first moment, when you just start learning a language, you're learning a language in order to be fluent and to hold a conversation in that language. And for
Sure.
that, you do not need vocabulary in what you write. After you're done learning the language and you're confident while speaking, then you can focus on the big word, because we people talk in Hindi, or like my family, we talk in Haryanvi. So we don't know the big words of Hindi or Haryanvi because we never really focused on that. So focusing on big words is the next step. But right now,
Hmm.
what you need is right now we need just different steps, different sentence structures. So for me, I think it's important if everybody build a reading habit, because with reading habit comes up different sentence structures. People have this huge problem of creating sentences. Daily on my YouTube channel, I check out comments and people are like, I don't know how to create sentences, and that's like
Hmm.
difficult for us. So how to do
Right.
that? The
Hmm.
first sentences, you need to build a reading habit, because that's going to
Hmm.
provide you better sentences instead of using just like normal words. Because the more you're going to encounter with that language and the more you're going to encounter and interact with that language, the more it's going to stuck in your mind. So never ever think if you can practice for 40 minutes a day and that's enough. Because learning a language and practicing for a language for a limited time is never enough. So it's
Right.
important whenever you get time, just start talking in that language with
Hmm.
yourself, a monologue, and start talking on random topics, you know. And there's this one more thing, a process that I've created by myself
Uh-huh.
is, first of all, we should start learning with normal words, basic words, like when we wake up. So we see things like chair, a table, or our bedside lamp, toothpaste, brush, shower, and everything, getting ready. So using these small words for the whole day. After a week, then start using small sentences. Those small
Hmm.
sentences are going to be like, I'm taking a shower right now, I'm having my breakfast. And then after that, start creating paragraphs,
Hmm.
paragraphs of what you did, or what you did for your whole day, how was your routine, and
Right.
what you're doing right now, what are you planning to do. So basically from words to sentences to paragraphs and then to normal conversation and dialogues.
Sure.
So yeah,
Yeah. Wow. That's
yeah, these
wonderful. And I
are
think
the
it's. Mhm. Great insights there. And I just want to take a moment to build on a couple of things that you said. One about the grammar part, and I completely agree with that. We don't learn Hindi grammar before we learn to speak Hindi.
Yeah.
I did not learn Punjabi grammar or heavy words from Punjabi literature before I started speaking Punjabi, right? And the thing is, which I believe, and I completely agree with you there, we get caught up in the rules. We get caught up in, the fear of being wrong, or, what if it's a wrong tense here, or what, et cetera, et cetera. Or what if, could there be a better word, right? People learn language the other way around. I've seen youngsters memorizing words from the dictionary, just going by the dictionary meaning of that word, not understanding that meanings change thanks to context, right? A context can change the meaning of the word. So I appreciate what you said there. And the second part is about immersion learning. It's not about 30 minutes a day and then you forget all about it. And it's about immersing yourself into that content. I always recommend, and perhaps that's what you said also earlier, is having both audio and visual reinforcement at the same time. So if it's, you know what, I tried this and it works wonders, and I recommended it to other people also. Get an actual printed book and then download the audiobook for that, right? So you are now reading it and hearing it at the same time with spoken word by someone else.
Helps
and
a
you're
lot.
reading.
Literally helps a lot.
And so these sort of processes work really well. There's a reason, and I must make this clear to everybody who's listening or watching to this conversation, that a lot of you will leave in the comments later on, "Sir, Hindi mein video kyun nahi kiya," right?
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, and Janhavi would love to hear from you also as well on this. Guys, if you don't listen to this video in English, right, the chances of you getting better at that language are going to be very slim, because you're escaping, you're sort of moving back into the comfort zone. I'm a big believer, either you go forward into growth or you go backwards into safety, right? These two choices we always have. Going forward into growth is always risky. You risk embarrassment, saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, making a mistake, embarrassing yourselves, etc., etc. And that's fine. That's a risk, and I know it exists, and you got to move forward anyway. So step forward into growth or step backwards into safety. Now, you could go back into your safety zone, but that's not where growth happens, right? So you got to take that chance, and that is precisely the reason why that this conversation here, in its entirety, will happen in English today, so that Janhavi can demonstrate, so she gets an opportunity to show you guys the possibilities. And the possibilities are this precisely, that if Janhavi here, who was born and raised in district Samalka, Panipat, Haryana, can achieve this language, this sort of grasp on this, not only the English language, but also Japanese and Spanish and other languages that she's learning. And she's been covered by major publications across the world. Professors from universities in different parts of the world have come to study, your processes and how you've learned, and you've been a source of a lot of interest for many news channels, etc. If she can do it, you can do it too. And that's precisely the reason why we've gathered here for this discussion. And I'd love to hear from you, Janhavi. What words of inspiration would you offer, especially to youngsters in the Indian subcontinent who have a lot of potential, but they have also a lot of mindset issues that hold them back? Speak to us about that, please.
Oh, yes, I'd love to. Okay, so the first thing is that teenagers, all of the time I see teenagers and they're always like, we have to get out of our comfort zone to do something. In order to do something, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And I hate this sentence. Is like, we have to get out of our comfort zone. Just riddle me one thing. When you love doing something and when you really, really want to do something, so the more you're going to do it, the more comfort it's going to bring you. So why do we use the phrase, we have to get out of our comfort zone? Doing something that you like to do, doing something that you love to do more and more over and over again, isn't that getting in your comfort zone? So I think what we really need right now is a positive mindset. We have built words that we were never meant to hear because we still are teenagers. So we have built so many words. Of course, there are problems with everyone, but we name them. We don't think of problems as a part of life. We think of problems as problems. We don't think of problems like, it happens. All right, let's keep moving. So yes, of course, everyone has their own opinions, own perspectives, and I'm not asking you people to change those. But if you find something logical, then I think it's perfectly fine to, analyze and research. Is what you have been doing, is it right or wrong? So the first thing is what we people really have to focus on is, like, if you love, like, just for an instance, if you love doing singing, if you love singing different songs, so you can't just say, when I sing, I get out of my comfort zone. You love doing that thing, so you're getting in your comfort zone. If you're
Hmm.
learning a new language, you can't say, I'm getting out of my comfort zone to learn a new language. That means if you're getting out of your comfort zone, you really don't want to do it. So please stop having a negative mindset. We have such a negative mindset for everything. And every motivational book I've ever read just comes on one single point, and that is the law of attraction. Whatever your thoughts are, those are not only your thoughts, you are your thoughts, and you are
Wow.
that person. So
Wow.
it's important if you people change your thoughts, because we people think if we're going to change our 3D, that's going to change our thoughts. That's why we keep moving from India to Canada, Australia, USA, to change our 3D world in order to change our mindset. So how
Hmm.
about before we move somewhere to change our 3D, we change our mindset first. That's going to bring us inner happiness, and 3D will change by itself. Because
Reality will
that's
change by
why
itself.
we all have this, we all have these things, and we riddle all of these things, and we go like, yeah, it's going to bring me peace, it's going to bring me inner happiness.
Hmm.
Instead of focusing on the outside things, it's important you focus on the inside, how much positive of a person you are.
Right.
We, as a society, we are so judgmental. And even
Hmm.
if we are not, but somehow other people affect us so, so much. If
Hmm.
teenagers, I'm talking on the behalf of teenagers right now, not all of them, but most of us, if we look at someone who's wearing an extremely stunning dress and that dress is Gucci, then we people are like, how come she's so rich? Like, where did she get the money for this? How come
Hmm.
she can look better than me? Instead of appreciating people, we don't
Right.
appreciate people a lot. We start
Hmm.
judging people, or
Hmm.
instead of that, what we start doing is we start to have all of these feelings of jealousy everywhere. And I think as teenagers and as a society, we really, really need to change that. So
Wow.
start appreciating people. There was a phase in my life when I was really insecure about all of the things. And I kept checking all of my comments on YouTube. So 50 positive comments were not affecting me at all. But one negative comment affected me a lot. And I
Hmm.
used to worry about it the whole time. And
Right.
then I used to look at people who were living their lives like, who were more famous than me. I know it sounds really bad, but who were more famous than me. But then I used to look at them and I go like, why? And it used to affect me so negatively. Instead
Hmm.
of that, I started appreciating those people.
Hmm.
And now I love my life. So
Hmm.
please start appreciating people, and please start appreciating everyone. And then another thing that teenagers comes up with is like, my parents, they are a problem. They do not let me do things and everything. Well, you have to give your parents a thing to show, is like, you can do something, whatever you want to do.
Hmm.
As long as you can prove yourself to your own parents or to yourself, how can they let you do anything? And
Right. To build
believe
that
me, when you're
trust. Hmm.
passionate about
Hmm.
when you're passionate about something, you keep finding different resources, as you
Of
said
course.
too. You keep finding different resources to prove yourself, and somehow, you do it, and everyone starts believing in you. So just keep doing things instead of focusing on other people. And even if you are focusing on other people, learn from them, gain their positive things, just be happy all of the time, start having fun with things. Because please, if you're going to change your thoughts, you will become your thoughts. Like, even whatever your 3D world is, if you keep telling yourself, I am extremely rich, then you are rich.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
So that's how I roll with things. And that's what I want to say to everyone out there.
That's profound wisdom there, Janvi. That's profound wisdom there.
Thank you.
And it really resonates with me, that part where you said that first you change your inner reality, and then the 3D, that the outer reality begins to correspond to what you're holding in
Yes.
here. So it's very important how you see yourself. And you captured that sentiment well, that especially teenagers, when they look at things that they cannot understand, instead of appreciating it or being curious about it, you start to sort of hate it, or you start to question it. You start to
Yeah.
become jealous of it instead of trying to figure out, hey, if I like it deep down in my heart, if I want to be like that, what can I start doing today in order to be like that person? And it's wonderful that you're sharing all this wisdom here. And I'm sure there's folks from not only the Indian subcontinent, but also from Philippines, from Africa, from different parts of the world who'll be tuning in and listening to what you have to say. Talk to us about what role the law of attraction might have played in helping you arrive at where you are today and what you've accomplished and all the fame and and the expertise, not just the fame, but also the expertise that you're sharing on your channel, and you're inspiring so many other youngsters to listen to their hearts, to be their best versions. Talk to us about what role the law of attraction might have played in this.
Oh yes. Now I was not aware of law of attraction until I was 14 or 15. Before that, everything was just going, but I think somehow it has helped me indirectly a lot. So when I was younger, I never used to think like I will become this person or I will become like this person. So I just used to think of me or visualize myself as one of those people. So I think that helped me a lot. And whenever I used to watch like YouTube tutorials or online classes, I used to look at my teachers, then I used to be like, this is me, and this is me, and this is how I'm teaching people. So I always
Wow.
had this thing inside me when I used to mimic like BBC or CNN. So I was in my anchor phase. So every single time, whenever I was speaking in a different accent, or whenever I was, mimicking BBC or mimicking CNN, it always helped me to gain that better perspective and to, visualize myself as one of those people instead of thinking, I will do this, I want to do this, and everything. So I think it somehow helped me indirectly, but then I became aware of it. So I'd like to share an experience of mine. When I was
Please.
14, I was invited by Josh Talks. So I went to Josh Talks and I was pretty excited. I, again, visualized myself like, yeah, I'm talking. Everyone create imaginary scenarios in their head. And I think it's pretty common among us teenagers. It just depends what kind of imaginary scenarios
Even
you
the
are creating in your
40-year-olds,
head.
even the 40-year-olds. It's common among us too. Right.
So when I was invited to Josh Talks, I was kind of excited, and I was just before the night, I was just visualizing myself as that tomorrow I'm going to talk in front of a lot of people, and it's going to be great and everything. So we went to the venue, and people over there were like, "You have to talk in Hindi first of all," and I was like, "I've never talked in Hindi before, especially in front of audience." And then they go like, "There is not going to be an audience. You just have to behave like there is going to be an audience." So that's a secret.
So this is a
there.
video
I'm sorry.
camera.
Yeah, so there's just video camera and you have to behave like there is audience. And for me, there is this thing with me is like the more the crowd, like if there are 10,000 people, the better. If there are 20,000 people, even better. So it just happens with me. And I'm looking at my dad like, what am I supposed to do now? Hindi, no audience, having to behave like there is an audience. What am I going to do? So my dad was like, just give your best, share your experiences. So the first time I went up to the stage, I started recording. I spoke everything in English because I was not too confident. And then what happened? Then those people were like, I'm sorry, you spoke in English, you had to speak in Hindi, so would you please prepare again? My dad got mad at me, was like, what are you doing, Janhavi? This is not how it's supposed to be. I was like, Dad, what can I do? In our normal regional language. So my dad went like, okay, you have to talk about these things just in a normal pace order, just behave like you're having a conversation. So my dad was like, just imagine yourself having a conversation with me or with anyone else, just behave like that. So the speech was done. When we came back home, my dad was like, they are not even going to post your video on YouTube. I'm going to write it right now. They're not going to post your video on YouTube because that's how terrible you did. I was kind of sad, and then all of a sudden, sometimes self-realization stuck. It's like, whatever you're gonna think, that's gonna happen. And that time I just read The Secret. So that secret, the book The Secret, it was having this great effect on me. And I was like, let's just think positive. They are gonna post it. I'm gonna get views and everything. So basically I visualized, and I just did not really think about it. So the problem with most of us is when we tend to do something wrong, we keep thinking about it. It's like how wrong we did and how bad we did. And somehow by visualizing how bad we did and how wrong we did, we somehow attract it into our reality. And it becomes bad, it becomes wrong. So I did not really think about it. I just kept moving on. I was like, yeah, they're going to post it. It's going to be great and everything. And they did. They posted it, and now it's the most viewed video of Josh Talks.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
never thought that, and somehow it just turned out so great. So I think it's important. Believe me, that virtual applause thing, it's really cool. So I think it's important is like what you people are and what you people think of yourself as, and not focusing too much on the negative parts of your life, because the more you're going to think about them, the more you're going to attract them, indirectly or directly, however you want to
Right.
take it. So
Absolutely.
it's important to think positive, and the negative things, forget about those. Something's going to happen. That's okay. You can handle it.
Yep. Be careful of what you focus on, because it's going to,
Yeah.
you're going to become it in a way. And if you don't like it, change it. Think different thoughts. Think different thoughts. Replace it. Sit with you. So if you find yourself overwhelmed with negative thoughts, just sit down with a pen and paper and write about things that are working well in your life. I always believe, so if you have 10 things in your life, maybe 7 are working in your favor, 3 are not working in your favor. You have an option right there. Am I going to obsess about the 3 that are not working in my favor, or I'm going to focus on the 7 which are working well right now? And the other 3 will fall into place as and when they have to. And I certainly practice that. I think it's important for youngsters who are watching right now to understand 2 or 3 very important things here. Is to understand that this right here between your ears is the most precious real estate in the world. Don't let anybody else live here rent free, especially not negativity. You are in charge. You're the landlord. You can push out the tenants that you don't like. I know it's easier said than done, but with practice, with meditation, with visualization, with sitting down and writing, taking charge of your thoughts, you can design your life just like you design your wardrobes. You guys pick the clothes that you sort of wear. I'd like that look. I'd like to look like that person, have those clothes. Okay, the same way you can decide, I'd like to have thoughts like that. I'd like to be like that person, talk like that person, walk like that person, and pick up whatever is the best from other people. And I say once again, if it's something that you do not understand, please don't hate it. Just because you don't understand does not give you a reason to hate that gift that somebody else has. If you don't like it, move on, or look to the brighter side of what you can follow from that person. Because that's what youngsters tend to do, right? They tend to sort of dismiss the achievements of other people just because they couldn't do it themselves, or it seems out of reach, or they're struggling with their own internal barriers. And I believe, Janhavi, here, especially for young people, that the biggest enemies are inside you. There's an old African proverb that goes, when all the enemies inside are defeated, the enemies outside us can do us no harm. A gentleman who was my mentor, he said this the other day in Punjabi. He said, अगर जे इंसान अपना दुश्मन आप होए फिर बाहरले दुश्मन दी ज़रूरत नहीं पैंदी. अगर इंसान अपना दुश्मन खुद हो तो बाहरले दुश्मन की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती. If you are your own enemy, you don't need other enemies. You are more than enough. You alone will do so much damage. It will be greater than all of them combined together. So tell us about, did you face any challenges or any hurdles? So let's talk about both the sides of this gift. Let's talk about the positive side. How has your life changed ever since you discovered your ability to grasp languages and accents across the world very quickly? How did it change positively? And have there been any negative instances as well? And what can people who are tuning in right now, what can they learn from both? How did it accelerate your journey towards success? In what ways did it work in your favor? And in what ways has it worked against you? And what insights do you think both these things can offer us?
All right. So first of all, the positive side, I think people really need to understand is that my goal wasn't really to become popular or to be the Wonder Girl of India. My goal was just to learn English because I like doing it, then learn different languages because I like doing that, and just anchoring in a BBC and CNN style again because I like doing that, motivating and addressing people again because I like doing that. So it's always about, if you want to be a singer, you should like singing. Your main goal shouldn't be to become a famous singer, or because I've seen so many people and they go like, that person is so famous, he's such a great singer, he has every girl around the corner, and he's so rich and everything. So
It's
that's pretty
definitely
great,
not me,
and I
by
should
the way.
become that person. So I think I think it's important is like whatever you are doing, you do it for the right choices and you do it for the right
Hmm.
options, not for something that's really not logical. So my goal was not never to become, and speaking in different accent. No one
Mm.
ever really heard about it in India before, so it was
Mm.
kind of different. And never thought like people are gonna find this unique and title me the Wonder Girl of India or doing whatever I am doing right now. I never thought I'll be doing this interview with you because, I never thought I'd be becoming the Wonder Girl of India or doing such things. So for me, it was always just a path, and for me, it still is because I still have miles to go because I still love learning
Hmm.
languages, and I still am learning languages. So
Sure.
I think, positively, it literally has changed my life because before this, I was just Janvi, and yeah, Janvi, cool. People used to criticize me, but now
Hmm.
everyone appreciates me probably because I also started looking at the positive side of the things. There are people who
Right.
still criticize me,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
then there are definitely people who appreciates me, so it's better to look at the positive side of things.
Of course. Of
So,
course.
and now people started appreciating me. I've been interacting with a lot of people. For an extrovert like me, it's pretty good for me to just interact with people more and more. I keep interacting
Sure.
with a lot of people whenever I go, and I love
Hmm.
traveling and everything.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
once I remember I had this experience, I was talking with this American guy, and at the end he was like, all right, nice talking with you, from where in America are you? And I was like,
Right.
I'm not
Indiana.
from America. I am from Haryana, if you've ever heard about
Oh,
that.
which
So I was
that's
like,
not the
oh,
which state is that? I
uh,
haven't heard of that before.
what state is
Right.
that? I was like,
Right.
no, mate, I'm from California, Santa Barbara. I just live up over the Beverly Hills, yeah? So I think, so yeah, life definitely has changed. But again, I
Hmm.
never really wanted all of these things. I'm definitely grateful and I appreciate everything and every opportunity I've been given because
How
of
do you see
my,
the
because of the things I did.
Yeah, and how do you see the future shaping out for you? What are the plans on the horizon? Do you feel you're going to be around here in India? Are you going to go for your? You already doing your higher studies, your masters in English literature here, and do we see the Wonder Girl of India staying here, or do you see yourself exploring the big world out there and moving to a
I
different
think
place?
I'm gonna explore the world because I just love interacting with people and
Mm-hmm.
basically learning different languages. It's gonna benefit me a lot, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
for PhD, I'm thinking for having an international degree because I really
Mm-hmm.
want those experiences too. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, if you're just gonna stay in one place, you have limited experience, and I really, really want different experiences. So I think I'm gonna explore the world, but somehow Haryana, Smalka, India, it will still be my home and still be my heart.
Of course.
So,
Of course.
home is home. And,
Of course.
but yeah, I'll be exploring the world. I don't think I'm just going to stay at one place. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I can ever do that. My parents were always like, you're gonna fly, even if at 12, if when I was 12, my parents were like, if we give you a chance right now, you're just gonna fly out right now. I was like, yeah, just give me a chance.
And why not?
So
And why not? The famous poet Khalil Gibran, he said, "Your children are not your children; they are the sons and daughters of life itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you." Right? So
yeah,
they are the children of life itself. So to go out and explore, and to learn, and to interact, and to become, a better person, to learn more about the world, and to maybe come back at some stage and share your wisdom with folks here and other parts of the world.
yes.
Definitely. Has this been a pressure? Has your gift been a burden at any point of time?
Not really, not really. But yeah, definitely there were times when it was kind of hard to manage my time because I
Hmm.
had so many things going on. But then my dad and my mom, they used to make my timetable and they used to help me scheduling my timetable. And I'm really, really grateful for that and just extremely happy like I have my parents as my parents, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Sure.
So so yeah, I think there were times when it was kind of hard to manage my time with, addressing people and with making different videos for YouTube, then focusing on my studies. Studies were never really a burden for me because,
Hmm.
I've just been, an average kid, but somehow I was considered to be intelligent
The
because of my
average kid.
marks and everything.
Right.
So
The
So
average
yeah,
kid
if
with a
study,
special gift. And that's what we all are in a way, isn't it? We're all the average kids with
yes,
special gifts. The problem is, most of us, we never discover or unwrap our gifts, right?
yes,
We stay with the logo of the average kid, but every average kid has a special gift, and we need to unwrap
everyone
it.
has it. People come up to me and they go like, "You are God gifted," and I was like, "So are you." I was like, "How? You have two legs, you have two
God doesn't
hands, you have two
discriminate.
eyes. You are. It just depends on you
I
what you're doing with your life." So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that. That's a lot of clarity for someone who's only 17 at the moment. I really appreciate that. Talk to us about the role of the specific role of your parents. You've talked about your dad, accompanying you for all different things. Talk to us about the role of your parents on your journey, please, and especially what message would you like to share with parents who might be tuning into this conversation about bringing out the gifts of their young ones.
All right. So I've seen parents coming up to me and going like, my child, he studies in a great school, and we give a lot of fees and still he doesn't study. What is the problem? Well, the first thing is like, you are not doing some kind of, you're not doing a job for which you're getting money, is to say we are giving a lot of fees for our child, because that basically is your job. And people think, this is a big job and everything, whereas it's not. So if you're gonna think this, because children and as teenagers, so I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, your children do not owe you anything. They literally do not owe you anything, because whatever you are doing for them, it's only for the sake of your love, because you love them. But then at the same time, I think it's important to give your children some time. People are always like, we can give fees, we can give a lot of money, but we don't have
That's
time.
not enough.
You
That's
have
not
to,
enough. Yeah, paying for the
that's not
school
enough.
fees is
You
not
have
enough,
to.
right? Hmm.
Yes, you have to give your children time. And that's really important. So everyone comes up to my dad like, how come you manage to give your child so much time and everything? So let me tell you, my dad used to ring me up after like every 1.5 hours asking me like, what chapters are you studying? What are you studying right now? On what chapter are you in the class? What have you done in your whole day? Okay, so what have you learned in Spanish? And he still asks me. At the end of the day, before going to sleep, my dad is like, you didn't tell me what you do today. So I used to just get up like, and I'm like, okay, so first I read the newspaper, then I did this. So I think it's pretty necessary you talk with your children, and not only about study and everything, talk about everything. Talk about anything you want to. Because today's generation, we Gen Z people, we're not too comfortable with our own parents, and it's the hard truth. It's bitter, but it's a fact. We're not too comfortable with our own parents or talking with our own parents about some matters and about some issues. So, from the beginning, students and children, we need to have a sense of self realization.
Right.
Because of the gap, because of the communication gap with our parents, some children do not have self realization or a sense of self awareness. And due to that, they tend to do things that are not good, and they tend to do things that can be harmful. So I think it's important if the parents start communicating with their child, not just for, okay, what do you like to have, what gift would you like to have, and these are not things that our children need.
That's
And
not
even if the
parenting.
children
That's
need,
not parenting.
my parents, we are like typical Haryanvis. My parents like, yeah, sure, we are gonna buy you new clothes, and first we're going to give you a slap or anything, so first tell us what you did in study. So
Right. Mm.
you know it's not always about those things. It's about just having a conversation, but in a really
I
chill
agree.
and fun manner. And that is it. And believe it or not, the more you're going to suppress and press your child about anything, the more your child is going to become, is going to have an argument with you, or is going to protest against everything you have ever owned up for. So it's important you just start having a conversation and just start talking with your child like an adult. To be honest, just stop talking to a children like, you don't need to know about this thing, this is a money matter. We need to talk with our children like adults so that they have self-awareness. I am pretty confident in saying, and my mom and dad, they keep asking me, you're okay, right? Janvi, we are still guiding you, don't fall into something wrong, there is a bad society out there. And we're like, I'm self-aware about all of those things. So I think I have that confidence. And to be honest, I really, really appreciate that for myself. And that is the same
Sure.
thing that other people need.
Sure, you have that the comfort level, the bridge, the communication bridge with them. to
Yeah.
express what you might be going through, and you've developed that, you've earned that trust over the years. I might not necessarily agree to everything that you said about parenting, but that's definitely not the point. But it was
Because
important
you're
to
a
hear from.
parent?
Well, I am a parent as well, yes. And I'm a parent of two young daughters, two
Yeah.
young girls, ages 9 and 11. So, but of course, what was important here was to listen to your perspective from this. And I'm sure there's some great pointers there as well. About not forcing kids to follow something just because you feel better as a parent in the process, and also about listening and involving them. Those are some very important things. And I think parenting is one thing that cannot be outsourced. A lot of people try to outsource parenting to schools just because they send their kid to a nice school and paid all the money. Your job does not end there. It's been a wonderful interaction with you here, Janhavi, and thank you so much for talking to us about your journey, about the factors that drive you, about what shaped you and your vision for the future. We wish you all the best and continue putting out those wonderful videos on
Thank you.
YouTube. And the
I just like
courses.
to make one thing clear right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is like when I said start talking with your kid like an adult, I just meant in that kind of manner where you can just be friendly with your child with every topic and with whatever that's going on out there in the world. So, just talking about what's going on in the world and what kind of things that are happening and everything. Yeah, definitely not your personal matters, but just everything, just making them socially aware, and that's it.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate you being really open and sharing with us all this information. And before we let you go, any parting words of inspiration especially for our young viewers?
Just be happy and be positive, because our world, it's so full of negativity, and we as the new generation, I think it's our duty, and but we people, we have a lot of pressure upon us. So instead of thinking of pressure as something, just keep thinking this is a part of your life, it's just going to go away, and just keep doing your work. And I think it's important you spread happiness more and more, because there are a lot of negativities, and people, and this world is full of hatred, and we keep spreading hate. Just because people have different opinions, we start
Mm-hmm.
hating on the other person. So instead of that, just start
Mm-hmm.
appreciating people. Or instead, even if you're not going to appreciate someone, just don't care about those negative opinions. Or even if the opinions that does not really relate with you. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing, never let anyone control your mind. If someone had a bad day, and that person just took all his anger out on you, don't let that person affect your emotions and your mind. Otherwise, we people have given the reign of our mind and of our heart into someone else's hand. So
Absolutely.
never let
Absolutely.
someone else's mood and someone else's emotions affect you in a negative way. And that is it. Just be happy all of the time.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful message there. Keep moving forward despite the criticism, despite the failures, despite the embarrassments. It's been a wonderful conversation. Once again, thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best, and keep out putting those wonderful videos, Janhavi, that you're putting on your channel. I saw some of them personally, and I'm sure folks, not just in India, everywhere across the world, they'll have a lot to learn from not only your story, but also your technique and your processes. So well done, and look after yourself.
Thank you for having me. Stay safe.
Pleasure. That was the very inspiring story of Janhavi Panwar, who discovered her gifts, used her gifts. And gifts, we all come with different gifts. The whole point of this conversation here today, and of other videos that we do, is not for you to duplicate, for you to become a copy of someone else, is to discover your own gift. The reason why we invite people from different walks of life, whether it's young persons like Janhavi, or global achievers, or thought leaders, or gurus in the fields of leadership or customer service, etc., the whole point is not for you to become like one of them. The whole point is for you to use that information and inspiration to reach your very best, to discover your gift, which might be very different from the person that we invited. So I'd like to take this opportunity to once again reiterate in what I said in one of the videos that I did on developing your communication skills, which, by the way, has the highest number of views on our YouTube channel. English is a language. Communication is an art, and two very different things. So If you are not fluent in a language, any language for that matter, it does not make you inferior in any way. Your ability to get your ideas across in any language of your choice is what matters. At the same time, we're living in a global world. Learning multiple languages, especially English right now, for folks, especially in the Indian subcontinent, is going to open many doors for you, is going to greatly improve your how quickly you climb the ladder, maybe the first one or two steps, or open a door perhaps. How well you do after you're in the door, after you're in the room, after you entered the door, depends on a lot of other skills also that you need to acquire, you need to develop, you need to polish. But yes, this is important that you understand that for many jobs out there, a bare minimum requirement might be the knowledge of the English language, or if you're working in a different part of the world, the knowledge of Mandarin or Japanese or Arabic or whatever happens to be the first language in that part of the world. It could just be an entry criteria. And if you don't meet the entry criteria, you will not be able to showcase other wonderful skills that you might have. So my suggestion as I close this episode of the Beginner's Mind series, after listening to Janhavi's story, after listening to all the all the different stages in her development, is for you to discover what your gifts are. That's number one. For you to not develop the desire to copy someone else and be someone else, but to absorb multiple influences that you like from other people. So if you like how a particular person talks, maybe you want to absorb a little bit of that influence. If you like the mannerisms of another person, maybe you want to absorb a little bit of that, and that's perfectly okay, right? But at the same time, to understand that the biggest treasure, the biggest gold mine of your growth will emerge from unleashing your own potential, from discovering your own gift. And that's something that I would want you to keep in mind as you listen and as you re-listen to this interview here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye now.